narrative that it's a bad war, that it's a misuse of American foreign policy, and that's just not the case, right? Like the Russians obviously attacked and bombed and are committing war crimes against the Ukrainian people. American involvement is good. The defense of the Ukrainian people is good, and that I just kind of want to see that narrative disappear, and that we kind of all get behind helping these people who are attacked.
Okay, so how much money are you willing to give to the Uyghurs in China?
I'm not familiar with that.
They're a Muslim minority group, and they're being thrown into concentration camps in China.
Oh,
Do you want to airdrop bombs and F-16s and weapons and guns and stuff like that into China?
No, but I will say this. That there is a conflict in China that we will be involved in, that I'm completely and 100% supportive. So, like the issue of Taiwan. I also believe that I'm also hoping that the South Korea conflict or the North Korea conflict comes to a head too, because it's terrible what's happening there. I mean,
what does come to a head mean?
Like we do something about North Korea and free those people.
You want to commit an act of war against a country with nuclear weapons.
Yes.
That is the stupidest imaginable thing.
That's your fear talking, but if you were, what about the people though? What about those humans that live there?
What about the humans that will be annihilated by nuclear weapons?
Okay, the Japan in World War II were committing crazy crimes. The Japanese had to be stopped.
Yeah, that's great. I'm talking about North Korea. So
If
you were president, you would invade North Korea. North Korea would launch nuclear bombs all over the world, and countries that have alliances would retaliate, and that could usher in the end of civilization as we know.
First of all,
do you have any idea how stupid that is?
First of all, China
Are you trying to usher in the rapture? Is that your goal?
Listen, China has already taken a stance of whatever America does, America has to take responsibility for. So it's not like China would attack us for.
We're talking about North Korea.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to say. So there's no alliance, there's no country out there that would step in and defend North Korea alone. So that's one thing too. We have the alliances, political alliances.
Do you have any clue what the risks of nuclear conflict are?
Yeah, of course.
But you're willing to invade a country that has nuclear bombs.
So you're saying if the Germans had nukes, we wouldn't stop?
Just talk about North Korea. You're willing to invade a country that has nuclear bombs because you don't like what they're doing in their country.
Yeah.
That's such an unbelievably stupid idea.
Human rights. So I shouldn't care about people's human rights being violated.
You can care, but invading a country with nuclear bombs means the extraordinarily high chances that country with nuclear bombs will then annihilate tens of millions of American people. So by doing this selfish act of you clutching at your pearls and being like, there's bad things happening over there, leads to the immediate extinction of tens of millions of Americans. You've done a very pathetic job of protecting the American people with that policy.
Well, here's the thing. Obviously, the American position right now is we're going to slowly but surely take over the Eastern Front, right? By taming China, by backing Taiwan.
We're talking about invading. We're talking about you thinking it's a good idea to invade a country with nuclear bombs. So don't talk about anything other than that.
Okay. Well, we just moved several tankers in the region. If there is a nuclear war, we have jets we can scramble to blow it out the sky. Like, it's not going to be that easy to reach a nuke to the U.S. mainland.
How many people?
And how many nukes
give me a risk assessment of how likely Americans are to be nuked if we don't invade North Korea.
How likely? I mean, probably
maybe it's hard to come up with a number. So let's do this instead. Tell me what's more likely. We get nuked if we do invade North Korea. We get nuked if we don't invade North Korea.
They attempt to nuke us, probably pretty likely. The attempt. If depending on how we strike them,
If what?
depending on how we strike them, maybe.
You have a very, very poor sense of risk
No,
assessment.
no, I don't. You have you're overly fearful, and that's the problem. You're overly fearful. You don't believe in the men and women of our military. That's the problem, right? That's the problem. You don't believe in the men and women in our military. But listen,
Yeah,
I'm not even saying
that's a great tactic right there.
I'm not even saying that's the best move.
Criticize an idiotic plan to invade a nuclear power because
You're
of
not,
the risk of tens of millions of Americans being instantly annihilated. And your comeback is, oh, so you don't support the troops? You just don't believe in our troops?
No,
So appeal to people's emotions rather than argue substantively.
I'm not saying
this is why I said you're not a serious person earlier.
No, listen, I'm not saying the military invasion is the best move of North Korea. I just said
there's no good move in terms of an invasion.
That the tyranny of the North Korean regime that do something about. Something happens about it. I'm not saying
diplomatically, yes. I think the pen is mightier than the sword.
Maybe. Hopefully. I hope that works. It hasn't worked. Right? It hasn't worked, but I hope it works. I hope we do something more than what we're doing. But absolutely, we shouldn't ignore it. That's a crazy thing to do.
Who said ignore it?
Because there are millions of people that are suffering. Terribly.
There are billions of people all over the world who are suffering, but we are not the world's police. And there are millions of Americans who are suffering, and we don't do anything about it.
True.
Well, we don't do enough about it.
True. I do agree with that. Like I say,
I would not, if I were president, I would not even think of intervening anywhere internationally until we had zero homeless people in the United States, until we absolutely ran out of 100% of our problems here, for example.